Welcome to the first Biomaterials Design Sprint with Aula Future. We're really excited to be sharing this moment with you after these past months of preparation, hard work. We want to first thank all the people who joined and participated in the design sprint. We created the sprint in e-course because we really want to create opportunities for people to learn about climate issues we're facing, and also, of course, to empower the creation of sustainable, circular, and regenerative solutions that we hope will one day be implemented. And that's why we included a small cash prize for the overall winner who will be selected today. On that note, we also want to thank those who have submitted projects, as well as, of course, our talented judges who have so kindly agreed to join us for the pitch. So joining us today are Max Chang from Keel Labs, Joseph Ozinubi from Merck, and biodesigner Alara Ertenu. And out of the 108 people who registered for the sprint, we also have 4 designers here who are going to present their projects today. So how it's going to work is that each of you presenters, you'll have up to 7 minutes to pitch your ideas to the judges. And after the pitch, we'll allow 5 minutes for you judges to ask your questions. So judges, please be sure to raise your hand and Marco will call on you to ask your question. All right, does everyone understand the rules? Awesome. So let's get started with the pitches. All right, the first presenter is going to be Leo Roth with his project Pollination. Are you ready, Leo?
I am.
All right, whenever you're ready, Marco will start the timer.
All right. I'm ready whenever. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Leo Roth. I'm a junior in high school from New York, and my project is called Pollination. So a brief overview of this pitch deck. I have the problem statement, and then I'll introduce my product, the polyflower, as well as the production processes, some material research, some design research, what happens after consumption, and some of my brand values. So what am I trying to solve for? Honeybees perform about 80% of pollination worldwide, and 70 of the top 100 human food crops are pollinated by honeybees. Now these pollinators are disappearing. In the US, the number of bees per hectare has declined by 90% since 1962. This massive population decrease has been attributed to poor nutrition, habitat loss, urbanization, pesticides, and parasites. As the world gets more urbanized, native pollinators from the area often lack the green space and surrounding vegetation to be properly nourished. And ultimately, there's this negative feedback loop that's created where native pollinators will die off because of a lack of native plants, and then native plants will die off due to a lack of native pollinators. And that just affects the entire urban ecosystem. So my product is called the polyflower. It is a synthetic flower made using regenerative biomaterials meant to help support and rewild urban ecosystems. So there are 3 components: sea pollen, algae polypolymer, the flower itself, and native wildflower seeds. So first, the sea pollen is a nutritious substitute for natural bee pollen. This artificial pollen is made up of citrus food waste that would otherwise end up in a landfill because citrus makes up 50% of all fresh food waste in the nation. The pheromones inside citrus peels are also highly attractive to honeybees, specifically E-citral and Z-citral. Also, D-limonene is a chemical found in citrus peels that is toxic to mosquitoes, which is an additional benefit. Also, the sea pollen contains sugar, agar, and leftover biomatter from the production of the polyflower itself. Then the flower is created using an algae-based biopolymer that is readily biodegradable. This biopolymer is mainly made with microalgae, specifically invasive algae that would otherwise be wasted. And recent studies have shown that microalgae has proven to be an effective substitute for pollen, as it contains the necessary proteins, lipids, and amino acids that other artificial pollen substitutes just cannot replicate. And during the growth of this algae, it fixates carbon from the atmosphere, which would make this project entirely net negative. And also in the flower, there would be bacterial cellulose, starch, and organic colorants added for structural and aesthetic benefits for pollinators. And in the stem of the flower, there are native wildflower seeds, so that when you plant it, As the flower biodegrades, it will fertilize the soil and allow the seeds to grow into native plants, furthering the life cycle of this product. So here are some perspectives of the flower itself. As you can see, I tried to model it after, I think specifically the germanium maculatum, and I used parametric and computational design softwares, and I tried to harmonize that with organic design and biomimicry to create a shape that would be overall appealing to the bee itself, as well as to humans. So here's a little bit about the production processes for the flowchart I made. Starting with the sea pollen, we take citrus food waste from fruit and peel specifically, as well as agar and algae-based derivative and sugar to make it sweeter for bees. And for the flower itself, we first take algae, which as we grow, fixates carbon from the atmosphere. We also take naturally derived biopolymers, such as bacterial cellulose, chitin, gelatin, and glycerol, to give structure to the flower. We also add organic colorants, anthocyanins, and betanins specifically, which change to a blue or purple color depending on pH, and that makes it more appealing to the bee's visual spectrum, as well as starch to thicken it up a little. Then we extrude it into a filament, and then it can be 3D printed en masse. And then we assemble all of them to create the polyflower. So a little materials research that I've done is I've already created an alginate biopolymer made of a simple reaction from sodium alginate, glycerol, calcium chloride, and H2O, water. So this is just a simple bioplastic. I actually have a picture right here. You can see it's clear and it's bioreceptive, meaning that the algae itself from alginate is able to grow and has started to flourish inside it. And ultimately, it'll turn completely green, which is the goal. I've also done some design research. To model the flower itself, I use Blender, which is a 3D modeling software. It's used for animation and parametric modeling. I've actually 3D printed a few of the prototypes, as well as some experiments with biomimicry, specifically from honeycombs. Just for scale reference to help you visualize. And a little bit about post-consumption, which I think is the most important part. So the primary use is that the polyflower feeds the bees with artificial pollen and supports the urban pollinator population. But after that, it'll biodegrade in about 6 months. And this process can be accelerated by pouring water on it, especially boiling water. And as it biodegrades, the native wildflower seeds that are embedded in the stem will begin to germinate, using the nutrients from the biodegraded flower to grow. So the algae and the bacterial cellulose will go into the soil and help the microbes and make it fertile. And after that, as the native flora begins to grow in place, consumers should simply water the plants and help them grow like they would any plant. And eventually, this will create a ripple effect where entire ecosystems are being restored due to the recent influx in native plants. Some quick brand values. Our mission is to create affordable solutions to help rewild our communities. And we want to be regenerative, think global, respect nature, and rewild our planet. And something very important is to be net negative, which the algae helps us to achieve as it fixates carbon from atmosphere. So the entire production of this flower is net negative. It's not just trying to mitigate problems to the environment, but it's actually helping solve them. That's it. Thank you.
Amazing. Good job. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you so much, Leo, for your presentation. That was great. So we'll open the Q&A now. Judges, you have 5 minutes. Marco will keep time. You can use the hand raising feature and Marco will select you.
Yeah, so whenever you're ready.
Joseph, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I did raise my hand. I found the feature. So yeah, so great presentation. I really liked your usage of the flowers to kind of biomimic a natural flower in nature. That's very innovative and creative of you. I thought that was really cool. A fact that I really liked was that I didn't know this, but citrus makes 50% of all fresh fruit waste in the United States, which is a really cool
Yeah.
fact. That's very, very interesting. I didn't know that. So my question for you, how would you intend to potentially like scale the production of the polyflower if it got to that point?
So I think sort of a milestone timeline would be I would first sell it to like local vendors, just to like start testing, and of course it will take a while to get biodegradable information. And then I think I would start to sell it next to specific curated vendors such as like museums or gardening shops. And then eventually I would try to open an online store. And the great thing about algae and these materials is that you don't have to harvest them, you can just grow them basically. So the resources is very non-intensive, and as it scales up, it's actually probably easier to manage because we have more and more materials to use.
Okay. Thank you, Leo.
Marco, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Joe. Max, you're next.
Hi, everybody. It's really, am I so old? I don't know where to find this hand raising gesture on Zoom. I feel so funny. I'll use the manual hand. That was a terrific presentation. Thank you for that. I'm super curious about how you kind of see in the real world, like literally implementing these. And I'm like even wondering like how like per, let's say like a geographic area, right? Whether it's like square feet or something, like how many of these do you need to put in place to kind of have the impact that you're looking for? So just kind of like thinking about the scale up, right? Like, I don't know, do these kind of like live very close to each other in like a huge block, or do you kind of like sporadically put them like in different places? I guess I'm just more curious about how you kind of implement this and what that looks like.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that they would be going into specifically like very dense urban areas with like a lack of green space. And I don't think it would take too many of them to start the trend, basically, because after it biodegrades, then the plants themselves can begin to like slowly reproduce and scale themselves. But I do think you'd probably need a small number to begin the like exponential growth trend.
All right. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Leo. Any other question?
I can also ask a quick one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thanks for the thanks for the presentation, Leo. So I have a quick question about the alginate biomaterial. Did you try this alginate biomaterial like with integrating to your 3D printing prototypes, or
I have not yet.
it's
I have done a lot of work with 3D printing,
Mhm.
and I'm just starting to research 3D printing of organic matter,
Mhm.
specifically ceramics, which is a different deal. But because 3D printing with algae, like as a hydrogel, can be very difficult,
Yeah.
that's why there are the glycerin and the bacterial cellulose and the starch to sort of thicken it up and make it more easy to replicate and can be suitable for all 3D printers. The goal is essentially to make it as a filament, so it could be used
Yeah.
on a printer instead of making a printer just for that.
Mhm.
And that's part of the scaling too.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, ideally, the like files could be potentially open sourced so that anyone who's interested with a 3D printer could purchase the filament and print it themselves.
All right. Awesome. I think we have reached the 5 minutes. Thank you so much, Leo. Good job.
All right.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Stop sharing. All right, thank you.
Great. The next designer we have up is Jenny Glaser with her project Calico Pot. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right. Can you hear me? Everything? And can you see everything? All
Yeah.
right. Perfectly. So let me introduce myself. My name is Jenny, and I'm a packaging technology student from Berlin. And I'm not by far anywhere like very knowledgeable of biology or any chemical processes, but I like to turn my head towards sustainability a lot, and that's why I decided to take part in this competition and in this design sprint, and I wanted to get more knowledge about sustainable biomaterials itself. So I decided to create a little plant pot packaging for like a handmade plant pot that I have like right here. I can show you in the camera. It's like, it's just a small handmade thing. And so for this packaging, I'm going to first talk about my initial idea and show you the experimental I did. And then I will show you the final product and design and go over the life cycle with you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the next steps that I have in mind for this project. So to start off, when I heard during the design sprint about the mycelium, I thought like, yeah, that's a nice idea. And I also thought it's a really good packaging idea, but I might not really know how to use it. So when I would receive a mycelium packaging myself, I wouldn't probably discard it like by burying it, but I would rather throw it into the trash. And that's the main problem I came across, because the waste situation, how you throw a mycelium, it doesn't make you want to use it further. So I thought like I give a mycelium packaging a further use by adding fertilizing agents to it. And for that, I used spent coffee grounds and banana peels that I dried beforehand, and then I incorporated those with mycelium into a substrate, and those added ingredients add phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and potassium to the soil, which can then like help grow the growth of plants afterwards. So I wanted to create a packaging where the consumer will get it and he wants to bury the mycelium as a fertilizer in the soil. For the experimental I did, I prepared firstly my fertilizers by scraping off the pulp of the banana peels, and also by drying the coffee grounds in the oven. So I made sure that all my ingredients were very dry before combining them with the mycelium substrate, in order to ensure they won't add any microbiological growth to it. And then I filled everything into my handcrafted mold and did a growth control after 2 days. And when I finally took it out of the mold, I had like my final padding, and I was actually quite surprised because everything turned out very well. And I had like my mycelium brick and of course my plant pot, and then I needed to create like an outer packaging for it, because you can't just sell like the mycelium and the plant pot as a packaging. And to hold everything together, I created a small cardboard packaging, but the material of this cardboard packaging is not like normal cardboard paper or paper-like texture. It is made out of grass paper, which consists out of 30% of grass fibers and 70% of recycled fibers. So I just decided on this cardboard to make sure I won't support any further deforestation with this product. And also it gives like a nice haptic and a nice look to the packaging itself. So I thought that was like a neat idea to also go on further with the sustainability aspect of the packaging. So on the presentation here, you can see like the full product. We would have like the small plant pot, which is packed into the mycelium, which is enhanced with fertilizers, and those would be packed into the cardboard box. And then I decided to to do the life cycle assessment for this packaging. And I will give you a few more ideas to it because I can't go over the whole life cycle. It's not enough time for that. So for the spent coffee grounds and the banana peels, I also had the idea that this could be like a small businesses support small business situation where local coffee shops, for example, could provide spent coffee grounds and banana peels from freshly baked products or from their daily coffee waste, practically, and they could provide them to the manufacturer who does the mycelium. And on the other hand, they could also sell those plant pots in their store, in their local coffee shops. So you have like both situations come together where like the handmade plant pot and the coffee shop would go hand in hand with that. And then there is like the manufacturing process. This is like just how I explained during my experimental. It's just the same idea. And I believe like the most interesting part left is like the disposal, because mycelium can degrade within the soil as is, but the packaging, I actually did some research on it, and the grass paper, especially in Germany, can be very much recycled in normal paper recycling streams with like very few problems left. And if there are some fibers that won't get recycled, they could also be thrown out of the process. So this would be the preferred method for the outer cardboard box, and it could be also biodegraded as well. But I rather think like recycling is always the better solution when you can recycle it. And to go over the next steps that I planned for this packaging, the first one would be a soil nutrient evaluation, because someone would need to know how the fertilizer really affects the soil. So the mycelium with the added fertilizers, I would need to know how much fertilizer to add to the mycelium. And then the soil nutrient evaluation should be like someone measures the nutrients in the soil before biodegrading the mycelium and afterwards. And then someone could like assess how to portion the mycelium correctly, and also how to they could also instruct the consumer correctly on this case. And also on the same matter could be checked how fast the mycelium will decompose within the soil. This will also enable correct instructions to be provided, but also would just be useful in general to have like an outcome, an idea how fast the mycelium will decompose. All right, and the last step, which is to me the most important step that would come next, has two main goals, which is one is like to build a proper growth form, which I can reuse over and over. And the second part of it would be to ensure a really good drying process for the mycelium, because this is the main reason why I haven't shown the mycelium right now. Because like in the last 2 days, it actually started growing mold. And this is probably due to my own handling of the mycelium. So I have like two reasons why that could have happened. One would be like I stored it wrong and it absorbed too much moisture from the environment because it was standing there on my floor for the past few weeks. But the other could have been that it just wasn't dry enough when I took it out of the oven. So my really next step would be to assess the correct drying parameters for the mycelium in order to provide a product which is long lasting, but I can tell for sure that the added fertilizers weren't the problem itself, because the mold only grow like on the white speckle, on the white part of the mycelium, and not like on the banana peel speckles I added, or like on the coffee grounds. So that was my plan, and that was my project for this Biomaterials Design Sprint. Thank you for listening. And
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jenny. Good job. That's awesome. Really like it a lot. All right. Do we have questions from the judges? Whenever you're ready, just let me know. I know, Max, was that a hand raise?
Yeah, this was really exciting for me to see this presentation, because so I've been working in biomaterials, as in like a larger industry, for like 5 years. And I feel like the most, like at this point now, 5 years in, easily accessible and like arguably democratized like biomaterial that consumers can directly interact with is these kind of like mycelium based products, and it really in the context of like packaging. And I think it's really cool that you took this like direct to consumer like approach to bringing this to not just to market, but to people in people's hands. But I guess I'm curious if you envision this kind of extrapolating to like a not just a direct to consumer like product, but also as like a business to business kind of like, I guess, the expansion of use case for what you initially had ideated, to kind of like give it a broader application in the world.
yeah, I believe one problem with this project might be that the mycelium itself, when you want to use it as a packaging, is pretty expensive. So that's my most concerning part when thinking about upscaling the whole project, because usually there are also other padding alternatives for packaging, which are much more cost efficient than mycelium.
I think, Joe, you had your hand raised as well.
Yes, I did. First off, I just want to say, great presentation, Jenny. I really liked your design of the logo that you used. I thought that was really cute. And then I also want to say that packaging, holy cow, like we throw out packaging so much these days, like especially this season when people are like ordering stuff for loved ones. You've got styrofoam, you've got cardboard, you've got plastic, all kinds of contaminants that are not good for landfills. And yeah, I think this project is really, really pertinent to the environment that we find ourselves in today. So I just want to say, like, great job on tackling such a hard, tough subject. So my one question is about the plant pot container. Earlier in your slide, you mentioned you would have to the consumer would have to break up the pot into 1 to 2 centimeter pieces. And I think that unless you have like a toddler who's really hyperactive, the average person might not be inclined to do that. So maybe I was wanted to ask you, how would you suggest the consumer break the packaging once they get it in their house?
I literally just thought about breaking it by hand. So the mycelium brick that I don't want to touch right now because it still has mold on it is actually very flexible. So it can be maybe not into 1 to 2 centimeters small pieces, but very small. You can pretty much pull it apart a bit. And maybe you could also use some tools to, or maybe also some water, maybe to like moisten it, and then
Yeah,
make it a bit mushy more before that.
Right. So like when you get it, it's dry, right? Or is
Yes.
it moist?
No, it's dry.
It's dry. Okay. So then it would be easily like broken like by like the hands and stuff like that, or
Yeah, I mean, it's not like really like styrofoam, but I think it was actually pretty easy to break.
okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I imagine it being like styrofoam, because that's kind of what people use to, transport fragile objects nowadays. Um, but yeah, I was thinking maybe like you could have like something included with the shipping that would make it easier to like break it up into like small pieces, because 1 to 2 centimeters is kind of small, and I feel like it might take someone a long time to like break it up. So maybe you could include like a I don't know, like kind of like the only thing I can think of is like a potato masher or something to kind of mash the mycelium or something. Maybe it'll be something fun for the consumer to do. And there could be like instructions included with packaging that would be kind of cool to help them break it up into the soil.
That's a nice idea to go further on, I think.
All right, thank you. I think we're done with the 5 minutes Q&A. So thank you very much, Jenny. Good job. Amazing.
Yes, thank you, Jenny. And thank you for
Excellent
judges. All right, let's hop right into the next presenter. So up next, we have Daniel Hussey with his bio-based jewel. Dan, whenever you're ready.
All right. All right, so I'm Dan. I'm a entrepreneur and biotechnologist, and what you're looking at is a natural gem. So playing around with names, but right now it's called BioBling. And the concept is to like showcase the natural beauty of this particular wildflower in a format that uses a really cool sustainable biomaterial that not a lot of people are talking about. And I wanted to create something dramatic and beautiful and fun that will kind of like inspire people to ditch petroleum-based products for sustainable alternatives. So, I had a lot of fun with this project, and, again, going from this like inspiration of nature, tried to create like different types of maybe like pendants or earrings. I think of this as like a platform for designers to create, their own jewelry or buttons or, different types of products. So it's not really an end product, but it's more of like a building block for design. And so one thing that I thought was like really exciting about this was that I was able to keep a lot of like the color and patterns and texture of this like beautiful flower and put it in a way that can be, showcased and really just get people talking about sustainability. The biomaterial that I chose to like really highlight and play with is something that I came across recently. It's really cool. I didn't invent it. It's from this company Checkerspot that I've been, following, and they've been innovating in the biomaterial space. And they have like an algae oil polyurethane alternative. And this is like a picture in the lab. They created this pollinator kit. It's like a way of casting prototypes. And, this is one of the things I used to create this design. And yeah, here's like a picture of it in the lab. And yeah, so like the concept of this from Checkerspot's words is again to like replace petroleum with sustainable alternatives. And one thing that I'm passionate about and honestly feel a little guilty about is like how much plastic is like in the waste and how much I consume personally. And it's just everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's hiding a lot of times. And even if you create like a really cool sustainable alternative, that might be hidden, or it's like hard to get people to really embrace these emerging materials and talk about them. So I wanted to create a product that really brought that out, like a statement piece that would just like showcase something cool. And then again, like I took my favorite flower, this thing that's just growing all over Texas where I live, and kind of capture its beauty for a long time, and help you be able to wear it and play around with it. I took a lot of inspiration obviously from the course materials, and this particular designer, I think Marco introduced me to, and, you know, they didn't invent a chandelier, but they just, you know, created this like format to showcase this like beautiful design and get people talking about, you know, biology. This particular product, I don't think jewelry has like a big sustainability issue because it has a small footprint, but I really wanted to, like, you know, I envision creating trends that, you know, bring sustainable fashion to the forefront. And the fashion industry is like a massive contributor of waste and greenhouse gases. So, you know, I want to get people talking about this alternative that is way better from an environmental perspective than, you know, polyurethane, but also as like a vector of change, like to kind of create a message in the fashion industry. So I envision like all sorts of, you know, cool, fun products that can be built from this. And it's super low cost. So it's something that you could give out for free. Like I think children like it. And my daughter certainly like responded well to it. And yeah, hopefully this is just the start of something that, you know, I can continue to work on and you know, pass along to other people as well and let them play around with these concepts. So that's it. You know, that's the end of my presentation, but I'm looking forward to answering questions.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Good job, Dan. Yes. So if you judges have some questions, whenever you're ready, I'm here.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So you said in your presentation you were from Texas?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then you mentioned the flower. What was the name of the flower? I didn't catch that.
It's called a lantana.
Lantana.
And yeah, it's just all over, has this like beautiful pattern. It grows like almost all year round. It's like a shrub kind of. So it's just like it's everywhere. And yeah, and you know, I'm just like really inspired by like Janis Joplin and the hippies and people who like wore flowers. And I wanted to kind of like recreate that. And I'm also like inspired by like Jurassic Park, where they had like that mosquito and amber, and like just the knowledge that nature actually can like create things that last a long time, and you could, you know, freeze living material in a way that can be displayed.
Okay, thank you.
Max?
Yeah, it's probably less a question than a comment. But it's interesting to see kind of the range of like pitches that we've seen, because like for like Dan, I think it's cool that you're leveraging like this innovation that's already out there and kind of making it your own. And I feel like I talk, for example, with one of my friends who used to work in the industry, and we talk about the fact that like there's not a lot of brands. There are a lot of brands who make new innovations, but there's not a lot of brands that kind of bring them all together and make things now with technologies that already exist. And I feel like this is a really good kind of like segue into that. So just wanted to say that I appreciate the range of things that are kind of being presented, because they're all important, right? We need like longer term solutions that, you know, require more innovation and, you know, have like a longer runway, but at the same time, like we do need solutions like this soon. And this is a good example of kind of like increasing that time to market, I guess.
Cool, thanks.
That's true, I agree. Do you have any other questions?
If judges don't have another question, I have one. Dan?
Yes, please. Jen.
Could you talk a little bit more about the process of making the jewels? I know you used the kit there, but yeah, just thinking in terms of life cycle, what is the whole process of making it, and what would you do at the end of that life cycle?
Yeah, so it's, you know, definitely a work in progress. And I'm still kind of trying to figure out the best recipe and process. But, you know, essentially like it's this like fun prototyping kit, and you just like, I've used like silicone molds at this time to like, make all sorts of different like shapes and outcomes. And the curing process also is important, because if it takes too long, you lose some of the color. And if you use like too much UV, you lose some of the color. So it's definitely needs some like process optimization. But otherwise, I think it's potential to be scalable once you dial in the the different variables.
Thanks, Dan. How are we on time, Marco? Should we move forward?
Yeah, we can move forward. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Dan.
Dan.
All right, and we have our final presenter today. Last but not least, we have Sudenaz Kabaoğlu.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, we all can see it.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I will start. Hello, everybody. My name is Sudenaz Kabaoğlu, and this is my project Bioton. In this presentation, I would like to talk about the problem, the statements, my research, the prototype, products, its life cycle, its impact, and etc. For the problem, I chose fashion industry's unsustainable production and consumption cycle. And I want to focus on the materials and the problems caused by the materials itself. For the longest time, we've been using natural products like cotton, yarn, etc. But in the recent years, we came to the realization that in the long term, they cause and will keep on causing water scarcity, carbon emission, and air pollution. We tried to fix that problem by synthetic fibers. Sadly, most of made out of plastic molecules, and they also cause water pollution and plastic pollution. The material production is not sustainable, and a big problem in our environment's pollution at this moment. So I thought to myself, what if we could design a clothing material that's sustainable, is produced, biodegradable, and bio-waste sourced for a more circular economy? And when I did my research for some information and opportunities, I realized most of the natural fibers are hard to harvest and cause problems. And the plastic-based ones, cause a lot of more problems itself. In the opportunity here, we can make cellulose-based fibers from other organic materials. And I decided to just keep on looking into that, and making new fibers from other natural materials will need extra sources, production and harvest, and that will only feed the production and consumption cycle. So what if we could make organic fiber based on a bio-waste material that will help recycling of the waste and make the production with minimum necessities? For this product, I chose corn cobs. There are a lot of other companies that make fiber out of oranges, lemons. Some of them make from bananas, even such a different variety of fruits and other natural products. Making a cellulose-based, oops, sorry. I gotta, sorry. Making a cellulose-based fiber, I think to myself that how can we do this? Can we do that at all? And the data end of the research showed me that the possibility of this product is very high, because the corn cob itself is also mostly made out of cellulose and has a lot of fibers in itself. And the impact of this material would be a really great contribution to the industry itself. The final product, I thought about just making the raw material, but it could be turned into different kind of products as well. It could be used in fashion industry. It could be used for maybe other products as well. It's just based on whatever you do on with fiber itself. It will be organic, biodegradable, cellulose-based textiles, and it will be made from bio-waste. Will help to reduce the bio-waste and cause less pollution and save production. For the life cycle, the materials will be taken from the mass productions, will be based on bio-waste. For the design, we just need to make the cellulose out of the corn cobs itself, so it will mostly consult in chemical reactions, packaging and distribution. I thought to myself, we can get in contact with companies that are interested in making a better future for us and everybody else, and they will take the raw material and get it ready for production. We aimed for our products to be used in different fields for reasonable times for the consumption itself, and for the disposal, I believe with better materials, we can make the product easier to recycle and keep on using it. And if it's not usable, at a point that's not usable, we can just, since it's biodegradable, we can just mix it with some kind of soil that we can help with the production of the other organic things itself. I believe the products will be highly desired because the new direction industry is going and the authorities are wanting. The support and this desire in innovation will be high. And for the viability, it is based on bio-waste materials and will be produced with minimum necessities and will be safer work environments. And the product itself will be organic and biodegradable, so it will not cause any harm, and just it will be a safer work and production in every possible way. Feasibility, and the bio-waste material will be provided by corn factories or farming factories and mass productions like these. Making the product is also possible with cellulose and fibers found in corn cob itself. So I believe the impact of this product will be very high, and it will be a great contribution to the industry itself. For the impacts, I will repeat it again. Product will be provided by remains of another production, which will not require extra waste of energy or source and won't cause extra waste or pollution. Product will be organic, cellulose-based, which will make it biodegradable and will not cause extra negative effects on the environment. Product will be made in safe lab environments, and with the help of other professionals in the fields, will be applied to different fields as well. In the next steps, I would like to test the difference of material produced by dried corn cob from popcorn factories and mass productions, or normal corn cob produced from canned corn productions. I would also like to find which materials can be products mixed with the product and will take us to better results. We would like to test the biodegradability of the product in different soils and try the quality and the limits of the product with other field professionals. Thank you for listening. These are my contact information. My LinkedIn account is under the same name as Sudenaz Kabaoğlu. And thank you for your time.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Judges, whenever you're ready. Yes, Max. Thank you.
I don't know if Joseph had a question. He can feel free to go ahead of me. No, okay. I was curious why you picked corn. And like, so I work in like the fiber industry. And like, you know, we make fiber out of seaweed, and like one of the kind of like indirect competitors we're kind of going against is like cellulosic fibers. And they often will use, for example, wood as a feedstock, which kind of comes with its own set of challenges because that leads to a lot of deforestation, which has a bunch of trickle down kind of effects downstream of that. So I'm just curious about how you got to corn as a feedstock for the cellulosic fiber. And then I'm curious if you can shed any light on kind of the production process that you use to make that fiber. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your question. For corn hub, I was thinking about firstly, what are the most mass-produced fruits or vegetables in the entire world. So I did a little bit of research on that. And there was tomatoes, apples, oranges, and etc., etc., etc. And there are some of them were already worked on, and there are already companies making fibers based on some of the fruits and stuff like that. But I realized we use a lot of corn in a lot of different fields, and it's a mass production. And even though we make fiber out of some other corn-based materials, there are no ways that corn cob is being used for the fiber itself. I did a little bit of more research in that, and I figured I learned that the cob itself sometimes being used for cat litters and biofuel and making some materials of architecture and for buildings itself. I didn't really look into that one, but I was like, the corn itself has a lot of fibers and cellulose. Why not make a fiber out of that too? For the production itself, I was going for a more cotton-like fiber. So most of the cotton is made out of cellulose itself. So I was like, a bit, some of the chemical reactions will get rid of the other stuff in the corn cob, and we will have the cellulose itself. And for it to be a fiber or clothing material as well, I didn't do a lot of research in that field, but I was my father works in textile industry, and he was like, we can do that. There's a lot of machines and production companies for that, so you don't have to do a research on that if you don't want to. He just said it's possible, so you can just pass on that one. So I didn't do a lot of research in it, sadly.
Awesome, thank you. Any other question?
This is more of a comment. Great presentation. I really liked all of your slides, Sudenaz. Corn, yeah, corn, we use corn a lot. There's definitely a ton of bio waste, so good job on doing research on what food we eat often on Earth that produces a lot of waste. When I was an undergrad, there was a company that also a startup company that I toured as part of like a field trip that also used corn as a feedstock for what they were doing. And what they did with the corn was they used the corn byproducts of corn, like the husk and the cob, for example, for like feed for fish. So marinas and things like that, they would make a feedstock out of the corn and make it into edible niblets for the fish to eat and to grow fat on. So yeah, corn, there's a lot of waste that goes with that. So great job picking that as your topic to biodegrade and things like that. I guess my only question is cellulose, using it in clothes. Um, in your research, did you find any prior precedent of that?
As in what way actually? Yeah. I don't know if you could give an example of that.
Sure. So cellulose is like a fibrous starch, I guess you could say, like plant starch. Um, and it's tough for humans to digest, which is why we
Yes.
don't eat it. I was wondering if you in your research had seen any other uses for it.
For cellulose, there is I didn't came across any human consumption for cellulose. Cellulose is, plant-based molecules found in the how do you how do I spell it? In the plant cells. So we as humans and most of the mammals is pretty hard to consume. I didn't came across anything like that. I saw it's being used for soils for other plant productions, but I didn't saw it for anything else. Thank you for your
Thank you for your answer. Excellent work.
thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Alara, last question.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Sude. So I wanted to ask you a quick question about the process behind the project. So do you have any prototype or made initial lab work for this Bioton project?
Sadly, I really want to do something like that, something solid that I could show off to, but I didn't have the chance to. But I would love to if I was given a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Great. All right. So that concludes all of the pitches. Amazing job, everyone. We really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you to the designers who presented their projects. How it's going to happen is that over the next few days, the judges will deliberate. They're going to score each project using the rubric that we provided. And then we will announce the overall winner on Monday, on the 18th. So yeah, thank you for, again, everyone who joined. Thank you, judges, as well, of course, for your time. We'll also be running this design sprint again next year, so you can keep an eye out for the announcement on our website and social media channels. Marco, if you want, you can drop the Instagram handle in the chat. And yeah, thank you everyone again.